believe this topic, it's important for us, I believe, to treat the question of evil, the existence of evil in the world. Why do bad things happen to good people? Some have said if God is all powerful, then he is certainly not good because there's evil in the world. And if God is all good, he is certainly not all powerful because there's evil in the world. What do we do with that? The biblical authors themselves dealt with this question. The psalmist, Psalm 77, verse 9, has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? Habakkuk in chapter 1, how long, O Lord, must I call for help? But you don't listen. Violence is everywhere I cry, but you don't come to save. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I'm surrounded by people who love to argue and fight. It seems like Habakkuk is writing about today, isn't it? Well, two very prominent theologians have tackled the question. I certainly can't do any better than they in dealing with it. They take two approaches, though. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Problem of Pain. And in his book, he looks at the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Simply by saying, there is no such thing as a good person. We are all, in some way, shape, or form, evil. If man used his free will to reject God, and evil resulted from that rejection, how can we say that it's God who has brought this evil on us? God calls us to submit to him, to be obedient to him. And if we are, we can experience joy in this life. Now, Wright takes a very different approach. Lewis's approach is very logical, very focused on apologetics. Wright, N.T. Wright, in his book, Evil and the Justice of God, takes a biblical approach. What he notices is that the Bible never tries to explain why evil happens. The Bible doesn't answer the question, why? So Wright starts off by saying, I'm not going to try to answer that question either. The Bible does answer the question, what? What can God do about the presence of evil in my life? Wright says there's a good answer to that. Before he gets there, though, Wright says it's common for us to try to divide the world into good and bad. There are good guys, and typically I'm one of the good guys, and then there are bad guys. Wright says that's not reality. Wright says the line that separates good from evil doesn't separate us in the world between us and them. Rather, the line of good and evil runs down the middle of every human being. We all have a level of good. We all have a level of evil. So what does God do with that? He sends a Redeemer. He sends one to accentuate the good, eliminate the evil. But that can only be done as man follows the teachings of Jesus. So what do? When we come against someone who has recently undergone some level of evil in their life, whether that evil was something that happened to them, or perhaps it was an illness that befell them. no matter what happens. That's not the time to try to convince them of why evil exists. That's not what they need. What they need is a pastoral presence. There's a time to talk with them about the logical reality of evil in the world, but that's not the time. Take into consideration the following possibilities. First thing, perhaps the most important thing you can do, is to listen. Listen to what they have to say. Second, pray for them. Pray with them if they will allow you to. Point them to God. Third, read Scripture, especially Psalms. David talks a lot about evil, the agonizing presence of evil in his life, in the nation's life. Be present with them. Simply being there is so important. And finally, find some way to provide a practical help for them. Babysitting, providing food, who knows? Ask them, what do you need? How can I help? What can I do? And whatever they say, look for ways to meet that need.